So recently, IGN put out quite an embarrassing article about how they think Nintendo is losing its soul. It basically props up the whole narrative that Nintendo is just releasing soulless remakes nowadays, using Star Fox and Ocarina of Time as examples, releasing Metroid Prime 4, and making a bunch of dumb business decisions lately. It feels like it's parroting what grifters have been repeatedly saying about Nintendo over the past year. But this whole narrative is very misleading, because most of the reasoning people give about Nintendo being soulless nowadays is things that they've always been doing. Nintendo also released somewhat unnecessary remasters of Star Fox 64 and Ocarina of Time shortly after the 3DS launched back in 2011, and the Wii U and 3DS also had blunders that were worse than Prime 4, with games like Sticker Star, Amiibo Festival, Chibi Robo Ziplash, Star Fox Zero, and the list goes on. And back during that era, they also made a bunch of dumb decisions, like the Creators Program, making it extremely difficult to make monetized Nintendo content, or making some games region exclusive, or releasing some games digitally in North America like Rhythm Heaven Megamix. I am still mad about that. Not to mention, they have always been strict on piracy, or have been shooting down fan projects since the beginning. Nintendo has always been like this. It's just the year, the console, and the leadership that's different. And none of the reasons that people are giving truly show that Nintendo has lost their touch or not. But I can kind of understand the disappointment of Nintendo not quite being the same as when you were growing up, when you let the nostalgia take over. I have even gotten caught up in that with myself several times. But despite all of these negative sentiments floating around, there has been one game that has really proven to me that Nintendo really hasn't lost their touch. And that is Rhythm Heaven Groove. Now, I am not saying that other games like Bonanza, Air Riders, Tomodachi Life, and Splatoon Raiders don't have that same magic, because they absolutely do, and those 4 games are becoming some of my favorites. I think they're absolutely incredible, and they also prove that Nintendo still has its soul. But there's just something about Groove specifically that reminds me of my childhood. It really feels like there's still at least a little part of Nintendo from the Wii and DS era that hasn't left. Between the cute and quirky art style from Ko Takeuchi, the catchy music, the attention to detail and memorable scenes created for each of the rhythm games, it just feels like this series really never left, and is picking up right where it left off. And I feel like a lot of these rhythm games could be plopped into Fever, and it wouldn't feel out of place. Really, the only criticisms that I could give to this game regarding its charm is the basic menu design and the title cards. But even then, the menu is still a cool callback to Tengoku's menu. Like in terms of the UI, they even personified the TTS system, making it into the game's mascot with Little Miss Reeds, which I think is a charming idea. It just feels like with this game specifically, Nintendo carefully maintained what people loved about this series, and really preserved that charm all around. And there's so many little references and details to previous Rhythm Heaven games, which I think is really cool. And in a lot of ways, it feels like it's the perfect celebration of the series' 20th anniversary. And part of the reason for why I feel they adapted this style so well into this current era is likely because they brought on quite a few of the former R&D1 or SPD1 developers and artists. Kazuyoshi Osawa, who worked on several older WarioWare games and directed the first 2 Rhythm Heaven games, actually directed Rhythm Heaven Groove. This is actually the first game he's been involved with in 15 years, which is crazy. The fact that they're bringing on some of these older developers that haven't been working on many projects really goes to show that this team cared. And alongside Ko Takeuchi, other artists who also worked on the older Rhythm Heaven games and WarioWare games were also involved with Groove. Even a few game designers from Intelligent Systems were involved. It really feels like this game was a passion project between both Tsunku and in-house Nintendo developers. I've mentioned this before, but Tsunku actually denied multiple opportunities to work on rhythm games made by other companies because he cared about Rhythm Heaven so much. And with all of these wacky ideas, visuals, characters, and even lore in this game, it feels like the devs had a lot of fun with this project. It just seemed like they kept adding interesting ideas, like, what if we added an RPG side mode? What if we added a rank beyond perfect? What if there was a game about the letter A, literally just the letter A in a bunch of stock images? I really hope we get an Ask the Developer interview for this game soon, because I know it would be really interesting. I'm kind of disappointed that we didn't get one right at launch, but I'm still hoping that one will pop up like any day now. And finally, I feel like this game builds a closer connection to the player than most Nintendo games do. It feels like this game wants you to improve and to continue to go back to get medals, then perfects, then rainbow perfects, and finally night mode. It really seems like it encourages you along the way and really rewards you. And the developers were clearly aware of the fact that this game could be daunting to newer players, so they changed the rating system to be friendlier in the first half, so it kind of eases people into it. And it doubles down on the rewarding aspects of the previous games, like unlocking rhythm toys or extra games for getting medals, or even just making the visual distractions extra detailed to let players appreciate it when they get the rhythm down. And even the dialogue in the game, between Miss Reeds, the barista, the lounge owner, guitarist, or anyone else, is very friendly and respectful to the player. It almost feels like they're thanking the player for putting the time and effort to learn how to play Rhythm Heaven. It's just very clear that the developers really cared about different types of players, and it finds a meaningful way of building a connection with the players. It just really goes to show that this game has a lot of charm and a lot of soul. I know soul is just kind of a buzzword nowadays, but Groove unironically feels very soulful. I highly recommend checking it out for anyone who hasn't played it yet already. I mean, it's not for everyone, because rhythm games can be pretty difficult, and I feel like it takes some effort getting into, but I do feel like it is a rhythm game that a lot of people will enjoy, and I am working on my full review of this game, so hopefully that will be out soon. But anyways, let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments, and thank you guys for watching this video. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more, and make sure to check out my Discord server and Blue Sky if you want to. Stay perky!